Okay, so tonight we're starting off our first lecture of a series on personal finance. And what you're really getting is very like a business course at the college that you would take first year called Personal Financial Planning. And it's really designed to look at financial decisions that you have to make all the way through your life in terms of insurance, mortgaging, getting a loan, having financial goals, building investments, retiring, because you'll be making these decisions all your life, okay? Even better than the college, you're going to have 4 instructors here. So I'm just one of the instructors. I've got a degree in financial economics, worked at the college for about 35 years, and I'm still in the real estate appraisal business. We've also got a lawyer who's going to be coming here to talk to you, a certified financial planner from the Treasury branch, and I've also got a CPA. So you've got some really well qualified people, and I think it'll be good because it tends to run a gamut of different disciplines in terms of what we're going to be looking at. I really encourage you to ask questions. That's the best way to learn. As well, I don't mind if you disagree with me. That's super, okay? Because I've learned, I've gotten beaten up enough times now. I'm in my late 60s that I don't know everything. I know just a little bit, okay? So I don't mind your comments, and we all learn from that. The other thing that's different about the course that we're going to try to do is look at Bible verses, which we have, that tell us about how we should handle ourselves in terms of money. And it's surprising to me how many they are, but they're throughout the Bible. You won't find a book of money, but you will find verses all over the place talking about it, okay? So what I'm going to get you to do is just have a look at your lecture notes. Oh, and by the way, the good news, there's no final exam. Okay, so everyone's passed, all of you have A+. Okay? That's how it should be, yeah. Okay, so I did four pages tonight. We just talked about it. I think I'm supposed to go through not from 7 to 9, is that right? I'm 7 to 8:30-ish? Is that right? So if you have to leave earlier than that or whatever, just slip out. I'm fine with that, or go back and forth. I think there's bathrooms just around the corner here. Oh, are they right through? Going that way as well. You can see how I filled in my lecture notes, right? And I just did it because it organizes it better for you, and you can just make some notes, stuff that you think is important to talk about, okay? First thing I'm going to start off with tonight is defining personal finance. So what is it when I say the word personal finance? What are we looking at? We're looking at planning, spending, and investment of funds on a personal level. So planning, spending, investment of funds on a personal level. So it's really all about how do you spend your money personally? How do you do that over a period of your life to be effective at it? Okay? And for a lot of people, you'd want to look at how the family does that. Okay, because a number of you are married and are probably going to have discussions when you get home as to how to do that. Okay, and I'm glad I'm not there because I remember the discussions I used to have with my late wife. Right? But she was pretty good. She never hit me, not once. Okay? So a thing we have to talk about is opportunity costs. And this at first sounds obvious, but it's really not obvious, okay? And here's the pastor, late as usual. I get to get away with that. He's here to censor me because we're having a big talk about sex at the beginning of the lecture here. Okay, back to opportunity costs. So I'll give you a really obvious one that we have. All your life, you'll have to deal with that. initially, you're going to tell me, oh, I can do both. Okay? Yes, you can, but you still have to make a decision how much, right? At some points in my life, I think I went overboard. I worked 2 jobs. I was appraising and teaching. So I had very little what? Leisure time. Can you get the idea? So if you want to work more, great. It's not for free. There's a cost in terms of a loss of leisure. So that's what we call in economics an opportunity cost. Okay? If I've got money and I'm putting it in one investment fund, the opportunity cost is its next best use, which would be money in another fund. Okay? So the basic point here is you can't do both. You do one or the other. And I could kind of graph this. I think I can. If I put work and leisure and did a graph like that. And the more you want to work, what happens to your leisure? You lose it. Is that okay? And I was thinking of other examples of that. One is savings versus consumption. So in economics, consumption sounds like a disease. It just means spending. Okay? And the more you spend, the less you save. You want to save a lot of money, there's a loss of what? Consumption. Is that okay? Okay. Now, we kind of reward you for that. This will sound weird to you. What's more fun to do, consume or save? Can I tell you, spending's way more fun, right? I mean, you can go to Sandals in the Caribbean or buy new clothing or whatever you want, okay? But what we do in a capitalist society is we pay you what to save? Interest, because we know you're suffering, so the bank will reward you to save. Not very much these days, but that's the idea. Is everybody okay on that? And here again, there's an opportunity cost in the two things. Okay, so let's go from there and talk about, well, why are we doing this course? Why would we bother doing a course on it? And here's the part that gets Alan really upset. Those are 3 things that we have in our lives, don't we? Okay? And I'm going to tell you all 3 of these things are good. They're great. If we use them properly. If we use them properly, they're good. Okay? But to use them properly, we have to be disciplined, don't we? In how we do that. I had terrible problems with food all my life. I was the guy that bought all those big cheesy bags in the grocery stores, and I'd be walking around here like this. Okay, it's only the last month or so I've managed to even get rid of some of that. Okay, I live in the swimming pool. Okay, this causes terrible problems in our society because we don't discipline it with love or relationship or marriage. It's just been thrown out there now. I can also tell you, though, that a lot of people have trouble with money. We don't seem to teach it in our schools. We don't talk about it in high school. And we suffer greatly from that. If we're not disciplined in how we use money, we lose. Can money problems destroy your life? Yeah, they can, and have. Okay? But on the other hand, if you use money properly, is it good for your life? Yeah, it is. It's something that's worthwhile. So what we're really doing in this course, we're focusing on money, and we're talking about its uses personally. And what I'm trying to do is instill in everybody here that we use it properly. Because if we do that, it won't make our lives perfect, but it really helps. Okay? And I think you're going to see that the Bible does talk a lot about that. about a disciplined approach to money, okay? So what I was going to go on from here is talk about some of the problems that we have with money. So if I'm telling you there's a problem, why don't I give you examples of it? Okay? And I think the first one I told you was greed. So what would you say greed was? Greed is where we love money. And I guess best way I can tell you about it is, have you ever seen this duck show? They got this Scrooge McDuck. He's always in the basement, like with gold coins, going crazy happy. Okay? There are people that live for money. All they want to do is build up these big accounts of money. Okay? A lot of times I see this in the business community. Someone makes $10 million, $20 million, they don't stop. Now, sometimes that's okay if they like doing what they're doing, and that's why they're doing it. Sometimes it's not okay if they're just thinking the money, the greed of it. One of the saddest stories I ever confronted was I was on the discipline committee nationally for the Appraisal Institute, and we used to have to take people's stamps away or discipline bad appraisers. We had a guy showed up, and this is a number of years ago. He had murdered his wife, which is a horrible thing. And you would say to me, well, what's that got to do with the Appraisal Institute? Well, what happens if you're a professional? They say, oh, that doesn't make the profession look very good if you've gone out and murdered your wife. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to take your qualifications away too, because we don't want that out there. So what was the story behind this? It was classic. What it was a guy was an appraiser, sets up his own business, loves money too much, loves success too much, and goes crazy working 24/7 building this business up. How do you think he got along with his wife? Not good. Because what did she want? She married the guy. She wants to see him once in a while, right? So she retaliated, this is the story I heard, by doing what? Spending all his money. So he's working like crazy here. She's got access to these accounts. The cash is just whistling in, and she's doing what? Use such and such. I'll fix this. He finds out, what does he do? Murders his wife. It's unbelievable that happened. I had it in my life. There were too many times where I worked and worked and worked because I was after money. And when I did that, I had a wife that was mad at me. I did stuff like I'd go out and buy her a home entertainment system and throw that at her and say, hey, I'm the hero, you should be happy. Well, she wasn't, because she wanted me at home, right? So that's examples of, I've got a problem, don't I? And the other appraiser did too. And I think that's out in society. It's just this, you're loving this too much, and you're destroying relationships and everything else, okay? Another one I put up was emotion. And I'm going to pick on my son here. My son went to Bible school, fell crazy in love with a girl in Bible school, graduated from the Bible school, and then she dumped him. Okay? So he was a total mess. Okay? And because of it, he got into something that I see in people. He got into emotional shopping. In other words, he was buying stuff not because he needed it, but as a way to fight depression. Okay? It was almost psychological. Now, he was able to overcome that, but he got into a lot of credit card debt with it. So you shouldn't be using money emotionally, right? That's not that uncommon. I don't think my family's the only one that had that problem. I still have this problem, but it's to do with fishing equipment. Okay, and I've got to stay away from that stuff. Unwise spending. do we do a lot of work for the money and then go out and spend it stupidly? I think we do. I've moved house a couple of times, and I'm always amazed at the stuff that I dig out of the basement that I used once or twice, which was worth a lot of money, and then I'm giving it to Goodwill or selling it for $5 or hauling it to the dump. There's incredible amounts of this stuff, okay? And I think that's a money problem too, okay? Or a person like me that goes out and buys what? Cheesies. Like, I'm worse than an alcoholic, okay? And I don't anymore. Don't eat a bag of cheesies because it's devastating what it does to you, okay? Alcohol, drugs, a whole bunch of this kind of stuff goes on. Is this an example to me of unwise spending? I put unwarranted credit. Prior to class, we were talking about it. I don't ever remember having a credit card till I was 26 or 27, and I was in a full-time job. And I'm amazed nowadays the number of people that get credit cards in the mail. 18, 19-year-old people are bombarded with them, okay? And that's part of the problem we have with money. We've made credit far too easy, okay? And it's really bad when you borrow money for stuff that you should never borrow money on. I'm going to give you 2 examples. Going on a vacation and borrowing money to do it, is that smart? No. You sit in Jamaica for 2 weeks, you come back. What do you own? A tan and an $8,000 Visa bill. That doesn't make much sense. Okay, and I'm going to pick on other people. Buying a trailer on credit, is that a smart move? No. That's like the $50,000 debt. You're buying the trailer. Can I tell you your $50,000 trailer will be worth half that 2 years later? Like, it's just crazy. Okay? So it's more, I guess you could relate that to an unwise use of money. Okay? Just to give you some statistics, and I'll just read some of these, and I think that we're going to go into all kinds of problems. We're one of the richest countries in the world. We really are. And if you travel in the third world, you'll just notice all the stuff we have. Yet, we're one of the most indebted people in the world. And I think once this COVID is over with, we're going to see a debt implosion on our economy because it's just unreasonable levels of debt that we have. Okay? I've got here that 20% of households in Canada, and I looked it up on the internet today, and I know everything's not right, but 20% of households in Canada cannot cover 2 months of expenses. So in other words, 1 out of 5 homes, if you went to them and said, okay, I'm taking away all your money, no, I'm leaving you with your money, they'd be lucky to get through 2 months. And after that, they're done. Okay? Another one, 177% of disposable income is mortgages and consumer credit. Highest it's ever been. So that is an incredible level.
What was that percentage?
177%.
Wow.
So if you take all the disposable income in Canada, after people have paid tax, their personal debts are 177% of that. Almost going on double. Okay, so that's an incredible debt load. Okay, that people have borrowed. I checked mortgage defaults, not that bad. They're still at about 1%, but I think they're predicted to go up a lot higher once you can no longer defer payments. The other one I had is there's 4,300 bankruptcies this year in Alberta in the first 3 months. That's up 13%. Okay, and I'm going to tell you that personal bankruptcy rates will be soaring in what we're seeing. Say again? I had 4,300 bankruptcies, just under it, and I had, that's a 13% increase over 2019, which is, again, showing me people are have stress, right, in terms of...
That's before COVID hit.
Well, that would be the first 3 months, the beginning of COVID, so you'd argue it's going to get worse.
It didn't hit until the end of March, pretty hard, so.
Oh, okay, yeah, so then we're going to really see it spike. Okay, so all that kind of stuff just tells me that we have a money problem. Even though we're such a rich country, we don't seem to know how to use our money correctly. Okay, we seem to either go into debt or do a lot of stupid stuff with it and cause ourselves a lot of damage. So if you want to turn over the page in your notes, what I was going to do here, and I'm going to pick on people that I have sitting out here so you can use your phone or your Bibles. These are some passages that have to do with money. Okay? Now they use a term mammon. I think that refers to all assets, all physical things that people own. Okay? Okay, so go ahead and try Luke 16:11. To me, and I'm no pastor, it's telling me if you can't get it together handling worldly stuff, good luck handling the real treasures, which are things of heaven. Would that make sense to you? Or another way to think of it, if I was thinking it further, if you can't have the discipline to handle your worldly possessions, good luck on your discipline to handle what? The treasures of heaven. The same kind of disciplines would be involved in both. What do you think? We're going to be okay on that? Okay. Matthew 25:14-30. This is the biggie. That one's always kind of a surprising one to me. I think what it's telling us is that we're going to be held to account for what we are given. And I think you could refer maybe to our skills, maybe to our possessions as well. And it seems to me that thing really looks at doing what? Managing possessions well, right? That specifically, if you don't manage the possessions well, will you be punished for that? I'm reading yes. And so that's kind of telling me that we're expected to be disciplined in our approach to money and the things we handle and the things we do. That to me was a good one to put in because it speaks to me of this, doesn't it? Yeah. It's you can't have two masters, possessions, money, and God. You have to serve God. So what does that mean in terms of what do you do with money? You got to control it. It can't be your God. And if it can't be your God, you're not going to have what? Greed. What do you think?
Or emotional.
Or this. All kinds of that stuff. Okay, because you're focused on God, not this. That's the right relationship of it. This is like a tool that you're going to use for a better life, but it isn't going to bring you long-term happiness. God will. Are we okay on the basic thought of that? Yeah? Okay. I think we've got a couple of more. Philippians. To me, again, that goes back to having a right relationship about this. In other words, you're focused on God, that's your happiness. You're going to be content in that, and you're not going to be focusing on this all the time. Because if you do, this isn't the stuff of life. But what do you think on that part? You can yell, you got pastors here if I'm totally wrong. No, but that would speak to me of that. It's being content with the possessions you have, and life isn't about what? Doing this. Because of COVID, guess what's happening to living in condos? People don't want to live in condos. They don't want to be close to each other anymore. The condo market in Vancouver has collapsed. Where do people want to be in? Single family homes. Why? Because of COVID. You're not near your neighbors. Weird, eh? But that affects the real estate market. Okay? So a lot of things change all the time, and we should look at our financial plan at the very least on an annual basis or when things change. Okay? Why are we doing this? What did we talk about at the beginning of the lecture? We're going to control money. We're going to control money. That's why we're doing this. You may, as a couple, have an enormous fight tonight. I'm going to argue maybe that's a good thing. Because then you have to settle some significant things that are way better off settling now than having troubles 8 years from now, type of thing, right? To talk about them. Okay? Now, I have an economics background, and I just wanted to quickly go over to end the evening off. We've got about, half an hour left. And I'm going to make sure I don't motor mouth the whole time. I want to talk a little bit about money, what it is, because often we don't have an understanding of it. And I've put some little notes there for you so you have an understanding of what money is. First thing I'm going to tell you, what money is defined by not its physical attribute, but by what it does. Okay? So money is something that does something, and it defines it, but it's not the physical attribute. So I've got props here. I can pull out my $20 bill. Here it is. All of you look at that and go, that's money. Right? Well, I'm going to tell you that money is also cigarettes. I had a guy I room with, crazy guy, got in a horrible fight out in Dawson Creek. I went to visit him in jail. What did I take him? A deck of cigarettes. Because if you're in jail, can you use cigarettes as money? Can you go to, Mr. Big and say, don't beat me up today, here's a deck of smokes. I'm buying a service, aren't I? Right? Native people in Canada, do they have money? Yeah, they had. They had shells and beads put together, wampum. And they could buy horses with it or guns or whatever. It was money. Is that okay? Gold coins, is that money, a physical thing? Sure it is. But all kinds of different things over the years have been used as money. I think Quebec was under siege by the English for a while. They ran out of money. What did they use? I think the governor signed off on playing cards. That was their money. Okay? So all kinds of different physical things are used as money. But let's define money. And it's really simple. We're going to use SUM, sum, that word. First one here is store of value. Store of value. Can I put money in a bank and it's stored for me? It's kept. Yeah, it preserves its wealth, doesn't it? Sits in the bank. So it's a store of value. It's a unit of account. A unit of account. So do we value everything in our society with money? Can I tell you a home is worth $680,000 on my real estate appraisal report? I've used it as a unit of account, haven't I? I give you financial statements, an accountant does that, has all these numbers on it. Are there values there? Yeah, it's a unit of account. That's a usage of money, right? It's a medium of exchange. If I had no money and I wanted to buy something, I'd have to find someone that wanted what I had. Okay, that's called barter. So someone has a bag of wheat, I've got a chicken, I want their bag of wheat. They're not going to give me the bag of wheat unless they want my chicken. And I'm going to spend hours and hours finding people that want what I've got. But money makes it a lot simpler, doesn't it? I can simply give cash and buy the what? The bag of wheat. And someone that wants my chicken, whoever it is, someone totally different, pays me money. It makes it way more efficient, doesn't it, than barter? Okay? So money is something that does store of value, unit of account, medium of exchange. It's not defined by what it is, it's defined by what it does. Now, next little lesson. What did we use initially as money 4,000 or 5,000 years ago if you were in ancient Israel? We used pieces of metal, didn't we? Gold, silver, copper. Kings would put their imprint on it. They were very efficient because they had a lot of value in a small coin. Right? And for thousands of years, that's what people used as money. Then what happened? Some guy got really brilliant and said, let's use paper. Why? Because paper is so much lighter than carrying coins, isn't it? When I was first around, money in Canada used to have on it the following. And if you look at our notes up till 1967, that's what they say. So what did that mean? Here's what it meant. With the English pound, American currency, Canadian currency, I could take it into the bank, this paper, put it here, and say to the banker, I want gold. I want you to pay me $20 worth of gold. Okay? Can you understand that? And because I knew that I could get gold, this had value. I didn't have to carry the gold, but I knew at any time I could go in and I could get gold. Is that okay? It's called the gold standard. And when you see this comment, even on a British pound note, we'll pay the bearer on demand, who's the bearer? The person holding the note. And what do they get paid on demand? Gold. Is everybody okay on that? So paper money had value because it was backed by what? The gold. All over the world. Okay? Now, take out your currency. Yes, you do have some. This is where most students at the college all look at me with funny looks. But if you look at it, can you see anywhere where it says we'll pay the bearer on demand? Okay, put your finger right about here on the note. What does it read in very small print? So what did they do? They got rid of that and they replaced it with this. What does that mean? Need you to put it in the notes. Your money is no longer backed by anything. There is no gold behind your money. There is no silver behind your money. It's nothing. It's a piece of what? Paper And the government that owns the Bank of Canada has told you it's what? It's legal tender. Now, what does that mean? Here's what it means. I owe you $40. So I come over to you and I say, here's the $40 I owe you. Don't touch it, we're COVID. So there you go, you got your $40, right? You look at me and say, I don't accept it. I don't want your money.
I don't want your money.
Okay, so there you go. I no longer owe you the money by law. I no longer owe you the money. Can you understand the idea? So legally, you must accept cash. Why would the government have a law like that? To force you to accept the cash. Because it's very critical to them that you do. Because if we don't accept the cash, what value does it have? Nothing. It's gone. Can everybody follow that? So money is no longer bought back by gold. It's simply legal tender, and you must accept it or the debt doesn't happen. True story in town, there were two business people, hated each other's guts. I think one thought the other guy was super cheap. He owed him money. What did he do? He gave him 5 pickle jars of pennies. Remember pennies? So the guy went to court, because they hated each other's guts, and said, I refuse to accept the 5 pickle jars of pennies. The judge said, no, it's legal tender, right? You must accept it. Although what he did do is he said, but the guy gets to hire someone to count the pennies and will charge you for that, which I thought was a good judgment. Okay, but there again, it's backing the idea. Okay, now why am I bringing all this up? You're taking a course in money. Right now, how much money is being printed? All over the world, Trudeau, Trump, everybody is printing money like crazy. Just running it off. Trillions of dollars. When they do that, what's the risk? The big risk is someday some guy looks at a US dollar or whatever and says what? I don't want it. And that does happen. Zimbabwe, they had 20,000% inflation. Their currency was worthless. Germany, why did Hitler get elected? Because the Deutschmark went to zero value. They got people, they were printing it like crazy. It lost its value. It bankrupted the middle class. They were desperate. They voted people like that, radical people. Okay? We live in that era now. And my great fear is that we will have enhanced inflation. It would not amaze me next year, because economic models will tell me this, that the inflation will go crazy. Because there's so much cash being printed out there.
So inflation, that means like then everything is going to cost.
It means you go to the grocery store and everything's going to cost way more.
So then how can, I don't understand how the value of money would go down.
Okay?
Like,
It's called the Fischer Formula. And what it tells you is that the more you print of money, the less it's worth. German spelling. So I'll leave it up to you because we've gone beyond our lecture material. But if you're interested in this, this is the money supply, the money we print, times the velocity. Velocity is the number of times we turn over money. The number of times in a typical year this money gets transferred. 8 or 9 times, whatever it is. That has to equal the average price of goods times the quantity of goods. So if I had a little island in the Pacific, here it is, and I had $1,000 on that island, and we passed the money 5 times a year, and the average product on the island costs $10, the average, in other words, some $1, some $2, then the quantity of goods and services we would produce is how much? 500 goods and services, 200 coconuts, 100 fish, whatever. Is my math right? Can everybody understand how that works with my small island economy? We okay? Okay. Goods and services produced in Canada. Could I tell you we're doing this? Are there all kinds of people laid off, not working? Businesses that are producing a lot less? Yes. What did I do with the money supply? So to make the equation balance, what has to happen to P? I've got to put prices up. I've got to put inflation up. Can you understand the idea? So you might say big deal. It is a big deal. If I go to the bank right now and I lock in for a 5-year investment at 4%, and I think, what a return that is, isn't that great? But the inflation rate turns out to be 30%, what's my real rate of return? I'm actually losing 26%. Can you understand why? Because that money's sitting there only making 4%, and at 30% inflation just on year one, it's already lost its purchasing power, hasn't it? At 30% inflation, I need interest rates which way? 34 or 35%, don't I? So right now, can you get a mortgage for 2%? I told my sons, they both bought houses, I said, go for it. If you can borrow money like that. And for them, if this happens, will they be sad? No, there'll be smiles and chuckles.
Well, for the first 5 years.
Hmm?
For the first 5 years.
Well, as long as you have the inflation. So you should mortgage the building pastor. What do you think? $1 million mortgage and smiles and chuckles paying it back. Can everyone understand the idea? Okay, so I'm just going to close out there. Think about inflation when we get looking at investments, because you're living in crazy times and you need to be cognizant of that. If you're a good businessman right now, maybe you don't put the money in the bank for 5 years. Maybe you tell the banker, oh no, I'm only depositing 1 year. That's it. I'm not going to get stuck on this kind of stuff. Yeah, and when you go home, can I get you to wash your hands? Really important. Okay, and I'll see you here next Monday at 7. We'll go on to the next. And you're going to have your goals all done and your net worth statement done. So thank you.